Good evening, citizens of Portsmouth, and welcome to our Portsmouth City Council meeting. I'm calling the order to meeting, and we have an invocation by Pastor Martha Provo, St. Mark Deliverance Center. Would everyone please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Heavenly Father, we thank you and we give you praise and glory. We thank you for your mercy and your grace. Father, we humbly come to you today that you would bring guidance to each and every council member. We believe you, Father, to touch the hearts and mind of your people. Proverbs 15 and 22 discuss and states that without counsel, purposes are disappointed, but with counselors, multitude of them, they are established. So, Father, we ask you to give them wisdom, give them peace and understanding as they give us guidance in what to do and how to carry on the business of the city. We ask also that they be competent and excellent in our governing. We believe you, Father, that they're here for the purpose of the people and not themselves. And we know, Father, that you are a great God, a merciful God, and a loving Father. We thank you for each and every one of them here, taking the time to stand on belief and on behalf of what they're doing here for the city. So we give you glory and we give you honor. Thank you for this day as we do your work and give you praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Provo. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes.
Present.
Mr. Hugel.
Present.
Mrs. Lucasberg.
Here.
Mr. Moody.
Here.
Mr. Tillage.
Here.
Dr. Whitaker.
Present.
Mayor Glover.
Here. We've now come to the section of the minutes. And Madam Clerk, would you read the minutes? Or we just move forward on this? Roll call, please.
Sir, you need to state the minutes you're going to be adopting. Today's. You're adopting the call minutes of January the 10th and the regular minutes of January the 10th. And yes, that's it. Yes.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Is there any question on the minutes? Could you call the roll, please?
I move
I need
for
a motion.
approval.
Yes, we need a motion and a second. We need a motion and a second.
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Hugel.
Aye.
Mrs. Lucasberg.
Yes.
Mr. Moody.
Yes.
Mr. Tillage.
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker.
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the speaker's statement?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the City Council as a body rather than to any particular member of City Council, staff, or the audience, and should be limited to matters that only the Portsmouth City Council can influence. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, ma'am. We've now come to the agenda item, City Manager's Report, item 23-32. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting an ARPA tourism grant administered through the Virginia Tourism Commission in the amount of $100,000 and appropriating said amount in the FY 2023 Grants Fund for use by the Department of Museums and Tourism.
Thank you, ma'am. We are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Second.
And we do have one registered speaker for this item, and that registered speaker is Ms. Donna Lee Biggs. Ma'am, if you would come forward, state your name and address. You will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Lee Biggs, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood in Churchland. Agenda item 2332 is an ordinance to accept $100,000 from the ARPA Tourism Grant from the Virginia Tourism Commission and transferring it to the Portsmouth Department of Museums and Tourism. On Tuesday, January the 17th, there was the Economic Development Authority meeting. At this meeting, there was a presentation given by the director of the tourism office. The presenter told the members that the $100,000 would be used for advertising assets that the downtown had to promote people from all over the state to come and see the attractions. Review the presentation recording to hear what he said for yourself. He reported since he had received so much negative remarks from the people living in Portsmouth, he took that media resource off the advertisement for the local Portsmouth venue. He also said something else that needs to be reviewed. This presentation was recorded so the information is in it to obtain your own assessment of what was said. When money is spent, all of the people need to be able to have freedom of speech.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any additional discussion on this item from members on council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Hugel?
Aye.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Mr. Tillage?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 23-33. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance that we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting additional grant funds in the amount of $15,786 from the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services and appropriated said funds in the FY 2023 Grants Fund to provide funding to operate local probation and pretrial services in the city of Portsmouth.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we're in need of a motion and a second.
Move adoption. Second.
We do have a registered speaker for this item, and that is Ms. Donna Lee Biggs. Ma'am, if you would come forward, state your name and address, you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Lee Biggs, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood in Churchland. Agenda item 23-33 is an ordinance to accept more grant funds of over $15,000 from the Department of Criminal Justice Services and putting that funding into for the year 2022-23 in the grants fund of the local probation and pretrial services to make the total award amount of over $6,000. Looking in the budget book on page 7-14, under the heading of judicial is the Division of Sheriff, where in the budget book records funding for the local probation and pretrial services. In the Boards and Commissions manual, there is a board called the Community Criminal Justice Board. This board is managed by the Sheriff's Office and facilitates local involvement and flexibility in responding to the problem of crime in the neighborhood communities. The Sheriff's Office has these strategic goals: provide a safe jail environment for those who are incarcerated, provide services to the city which will enhance the quality of the life for the people of Portsmouth. The Sheriff's Office is ready to work with the city management to develop new programs and methods to improve the standard of living from criminal activity and reduce the tax burden on the citizens by preventing crime and violence on the citizens of Portsmouth. Now, how is the Sheriff's Office working with the city's management to prevent crime and violence on the citizens of Portsmouth? Does the Sheriff's Office send deputies to the City Council public hearings? Has the Sheriff's Office contacted the coordinator of the Unseen Tears program to help the family and friends of the murdered ones to find the offender, causing the family and friends pain and suffering? Is the Sheriff's Office making sure the criminal offenders are being prosecuted or are they being set free? Who is supposed to oversee that the ones who murder someone is being held accountable in the following mandatory sentencing of the Commonwealth of Virginia? Is the sheriff's office responsible for overseeing the failure of anyone in the judicial system who is failing to abide by the mandatory sentencing law? How does the Community Criminal Justice Board evaluate how each criminal case has been correctly enforced? If the case hasn't been correctly enforced, what is the penalty for the officer? How has the sheriff processed the over 40 murders in Portsmouth for the year 2022? Has all the offenders been caught and tried? If not, why not? I would like to have a FOIA done so I can evaluate how the over $15,000 is being used and how the total amount of over $600,000 is being distributed. I want to know all about money, my money and their money, because y'all don't seem to know how to manage it from the last work session.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any additional discussion on this item from my colleagues on council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Hugel?
Aye.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Mr. Tillage?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 23-34. And Madam Clerk, could you please read the resolution we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. A resolution to rename the John F. Kennedy Recreation Center located at 12 Grand Street to the Hendricks Kendall Recreation Center.
Thank you, ma'am. And we are in need of a motion and a
Move
second.
for adoption.
Second.
We do have one registered speaker for this item, Ms. Donna Lee Biggs. Ma'am, if you come forward, state your name and address. You will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Lee Biggs, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood in Churchland. Agenda item 23-34 is a resolution to rename the John F. Kennedy Recreation Center located at 12 Grand Street to Hendricks Kendall Recreation Center. The John F. Kennedy Community Center is in Truxton, Historical Preservation Sub-District Voting Precinct 21. This building is under the Historic Preservation Commission's responsibility. For a request to change the name, an application is guided by the Code of Virginia, 15.2-2306, which reads, the local governing body may provide for a review board, which is the Historic Preservation Commission, to administer the ordinance and may provide compensation to the board. This ordinance may include a provision that no building or structure, including signs, shall be erected, reconstructed, altered, or restored within a such district unless approved by the review board or on appeal by the governing body of the locality as being architecturally compatible with the historic landmarks, buildings, or structure therein. In the Boards and Commission manual, it reads, the historic districts are Old Town, Craddock, Truxton, Port Norfolk, and Park View. And they are established with the goal of promoting and protecting the health, safety, comfort, recreation, prosperity, and general welfare of the community through the identification, preservation, and enhancement of city buildings, structure, sites, neighborhoods, landscapes, places, and areas that have special historical, educational, cultural, artistic, architectural, or archaeological significance as provided for by Section 15.2-2306 of the Code of Virginia. The Historic Preservation Commission specifically is to preserve and protect historic places and areas in Portsmouth through the control of demolition and regulation of agricultural design and uses of structures in such areas. The following guidelines is to file an application for the change of the community center's name with the Historic Preservation Commission. Or an alternative is to help create a historical preservation museum at 206 High Street, another historical district for the public to see all the work that the people have done to make Portsmouth a place to visit.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any additional discussion? Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
Yes, I just want to say I proudly support this renaming. The history of Mrs. Hendrick and Ms. Kendall. I personally knew Ms. Kendall and the work that she did in the community. Also, to call those centers recreational centers is really a misnomer because they were under-resourced. They did not really provide adequate recreation for the communities. And so what those women did in taking little and making much out of it to help a whole lot of young folks, I think it is right that we honor them. They have gone to the ancestors, that we honor them with this renaming, considering the work that they did with the little that they had.
Thank you, sir. Are there any additional comments? Vice Mayor Lucas Burke, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur with Dr. Whitaker's sentiments. I'm a product of some of the work that Ms. Flo Kendall and Ms. Kendrick supported. I think if we had persons like that who were mentors in the community today, we wouldn't have some of the issues that we have going on today. So I am in strong support, and I hope that, you know, we get to grow some more mentors like these women who these center is going to be renamed in.
Thank you, ma'am. Seeing no other comments, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Hugel?
Aye.
Mrs. Lucas Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Mr. Tillage?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. We have now come to the section on our agenda, new business. Item 23-35, boards and commissions. Councilman Moody, do we have any appointments to bring forward, sir?
Yes, Mayor, we have one. I move that our interim director of planning, Jocelyn Terry Amdoua, be appointed to the following authorities and boards. The first one is the Southeastern Public Service Authority and the Towing Advisory Board.
Thank you, sir. We are in need of a motion and a second.
There is a motion. I'll second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Hugel?
Aye.
Mrs. Lucas Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Mr. Tillage?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. We've now come to item 23-36, items submitted by council members. Council members, do you have any items to submit? Councilman Barnes, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. The first thing I have to submit is to the to the city manager. Dilapidated buildings in our city that's kind of putting an eyesore in the community. Specifically on Deep Creek Boulevard on Elliott, the building that has a bunch of stuff stored at it. I think it was an old supermarket. What do we have to do to kind of, because I know that's been there as long as I've been living, and it's been just like that as long as I've been living. What do we have to do, what can council do to get those, get some changes and get some, maybe demo it so that we can fix up the community? Because we know with the broken glass theory, when you find broken windows and things of that nature, that's where crime resides at. So I think that's one of the things that we can do. And also, there's another building. It looked like it was falling down. They had a construction caution tape around it on Portsmouth Boulevard. It was the cleaners. So what can we do as a council to get those taken care of?
Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. We definitely have stepped up looking at blighted housing. Council was very supportive of pushing that, that ordinance or some ordinances they had behind it for blighted housing. I know we dealt with and worked with city attorney to find out what we could do and to be in compliance without overstepping on personal property for people who do own those properties. So I know we had some things in place, and we have been in codes and inspections have been out there. I think the house on Portsmouth Boulevard did come down. Right
The cleaners?
yeah, it fell down. So it's now gone, they demoed that. But what I would definitely recommend, if there's something that you see, because we all see it, just let me know, and I can definitely push out, because we do ride around in communities. Me and the city attorney did some riding around. We were looking at different things, trying to get different ideas of what we can do and push, and I really push inspections. So if there's something that you see or that the community sees that they want questions on or want to be addressed, please don't hesitate to give us a call or have our ombudsman. We all know Ms. Bernadette Hogue, send an email, and we will address it.
Well, specifically for me, that property, that supermarket, the old supermarket on Deep Creek Boulevard, that's been an eyesore in the community, right on Elliott. Right now, it's a convenience store right there beside it. But it's
I'll take a look.
directly on Elliott. Two more things. I received a call from somebody on the planning commission, and they were a little upset that they did not get an invitation to the casino. And I wanted to know what we can do to make sure that our boards and commissions are getting an invitation to these events if they're not getting them, because especially the planning commission, I know I had to go through them. I feel like they should be a part of the invitation list if they're not getting invitations. And my third submission is on December the 13th, we voted on doing a forensic audit discussing 4 subjects. I wanted to know where we were on that, because I remember the vote being 6-1. And I want to know, have we started that with the independent firm? When will we be starting that regarding the 4 scopes that we were looking into as it pertains to the opera procurement procedures, general services, the community liaison program, and assessment of the public utilities and waste management? So I wanted to see where we were on that.
So I wasn't here December 13th, so what I can go back and do and find out what the status is on your request.
Thank you, and that will be reported in our next meeting.
Report it,
As far as what the status is.
do you want to, as in document, report it? Because we do report backs and tell you the status that way.
Both, but this is something that I also would like the citizens to be abreast on as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Whitaker, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, it was brought to the community's attention and also probably much of council pertaining to the gun shop that was recently opened in the Prentice Park community. And I know that there was mention that the gun shop, which council had no say-so over because it is, I believe, zone use by right, and so it did not have to come before council. To my colleagues and to the city attorney, we should be able to have a process similar to what we have with apartments. Apartments have use by right. However, they have to come before council still to get a use permit because council decided that that would happen. And I would like for the mayor to get a consensus of council for the city attorney to report back to council on how we can change the code so that that also becomes something that has to be approved by council, even though it is a use by right, that it still has to come before council for approval when you have gun shops seeking to have business here in Portsmouth.
Certainly, that's something we can consider, but I would ask the city attorney, before we move forward with a consensus on the specifics of gun shops, are there any prohibitions? I know that when we had discussions, when we met with that group, there was some discussion about Second Amendment rights and what you could and could not do. So could that perhaps be included in that report back?
Sure. I think what the mayor is referring to is a meeting with that Civic League. We discussed the role that local government plays in the regulation of guns. Guns and firearms are regulated by the federal government, and specifically the gun lobby has lobbied our local legislature to prevent local governments from regulating guns and ammunition in any way. There are some limitations with respect to entering government buildings, schools. There's some carve-outs for that. But the gun lobby has already made their mark with our state legislature, and there is very specific statutes that limit our ability to do much in that area. That does not mean that we can't be cognizant of the requirements of the federal government. There are lots of loopholes and restrictions that apply that are open and available to the public to know. So when you go into these buildings in your community they're dealing these things, you need to educate yourselves, and if you have any questions, my office will be happy to share that information with you, so that you can ask the right questions, like, are these things secured? Do you have enough? Are you supposed to have this many guns in your store? What are your hours? Know what the requirements are, what they put on their applications, and then the citizens can hold them accountable where the local government may be limited. But we will add that to any report back that will be needed to this council.
Councilman Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Hey, Mick, can I have a follow-up?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have the floor, sir.
Yeah, so we're not trying to regulate the guns, we're trying to regulate the building. So when you come back and report back to us, can we look at it from that perspective?
Absolutely. I think you'll find that there's some reference to zoning in there, and we'll address that in our report back so that it's clear what is applicable, what we can do. But the goal will be to find some resource that'll allow us to bring that before council if possible.
Right, and I think need to be as aggressive as possible. Either way, it's going to be litigated. I'm quite sure someone is going to challenge it. But I think it's something that is worth fighting. Because to keep putting these types of things in vulnerable communities, it just continues to add to what we're seeing out here happening in our community. So, we're going to get sued probably, but, some fights are worth it.
Councilman Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, it's common knowledge that we're still down quite a few police officers in our city. And we have been down for quite some time, so I would like to see a report back on how we're going to launch an aggressive recruitment program, retention program. I think the key to curtailing the crime in this city is to get more police officers on the street. I know we've got fuses and technology coming, but I don't think anything takes the visibility of a police officer patrolling our streets. I travel quite a bit throughout the city within my job, and I see, red lights being run. I see cars with license tags, 2 years expired. And I know those can be viewed as minor things, given homicides and what have you. But when you get away with the minor things, people tend to escalate that. And I want to see more police officers on the streets in Portsmouth, Virginia, like we've had in years past. And we've got to stop the turnover. We got to retain them. So I would like to see management come back with a plan to present to council on how we're going to change 2023 from 2022 and 2021. It's past time. We talked about it. Public knows about it. This council knows about it. It's time to do something about it.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Lucas Burke, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. The council members received an email from our school board chair, Mr. Cardell, Dr. Cardell Patillo, regarding funding for metal detectors, gun detectors, and I think it just went open-ended. There was no more discussion about it. Myself, Councilman Hugel, and Tillage attended VML Lobby Day past week, and there was conversation about schools and the use of these metal detectors as a result of the 6-year-old incident in Newport News. And I guess I just want to know, I don't know if any of the liaisons has had a meeting with the school board to determine how we move as a council. I know that the request was some $400,000 for $4.6 million, sorry. And we had an extensive empowerment forum discussion during our public work session today, and I think that's going to be a substantial amount of money. So I don't know if we need to have a future discussion, closed session, or some open discussion on it, but it definitely needs to be addressed if we can get something to that effect.
Ma'am, did you want to provide some comments on that or this time?
No, we're in that beginning phase of understanding what the needs are and what they currently have, what is their plan. Because I'm sure they have, and I haven't had an opportunity to talk to Dr. Bracy because this definitely came this week, but it's to understand what the current plan is. Is there some additional funding through a grant program? I know we did receive some additional dollars for the sheriff's office for SROs. So how are we addressing that? Did that go toward the needs? So the bigger picture for me is to sit down with Dr. Bracy and understand what is currently in place, what needs that he has, and then can bring that back to council and to see if there are any other avenues of financial streams to even cover that cost. So just a few things that we could actually make that decision a little easier and see what's really out there. So hopefully, my hope is to have a conversation with him sometime next week and see what is available, see what the plan is for a short-term and long-term to address the issue.
Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
Well, in following up on Councilwoman Lucas Burke comments in that regards, there's presently nothing there in regards to metal detectors. So it's not as if there's a plan with the SRO officers in regards to what this issue is. And also the funding, are we looking at possibly looking at the bond issue that we had discussed previously? Are there opportunities there that you see as far as a funding area? And I'm asking you a question. Do you see the bonds as a possible funding area?
We did. Our utility bond?
Not, well, you can't be a utility bond.
Right, so I'm not sure what
Oh,
bond. You're
we have
talking
the
about
general-
long-term?
Yeah, right.
No, I don't foresee us going into debt for that purpose. But we can look at what funding sources, if it's the desire of council to move forward. But again, the impact is after I have a conversation with Dr. Bracy, because that may not be the end-all, that might not be the end-all. It's a bigger situation. So I don't want to say, council, can you please give us $4.6 million to give the schools, when we have some other things that are in place that could help satisfy that concern. I don't know if they've had issues in the past that would require metal detectors at elementary schools. There's a bigger conversation that needs to happen other than just providing funding.
Right. Well, I don't know if Newport News had issues in the past.
I don't
mean,
know.
you know, it's a different environment, and can't look at it as we haven't seen this before, because we have seen it. And to say that we can't use funds because it wouldn't be good to use it for that purpose, that's going to be different when something happens in one of our schools. And so I would hope we would take that very seriously, the request that's being made.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Barnes, you have the floor, sir.
And just quick add on to that, I think it was on the news that a student was caught with, an elementary student was caught with a knife on the bus. If I had to guess, it was probably in school too.
Thank you very much, and I think what the manager has indicated is that she is going to get a meeting very, very promptly so that we can gather all the information and data and then make a real good informed decision. I will say, to the point of what Dr. Whitaker mentioned about, the violence and in terms of public safety, I can't speak on behalf of my colleagues, but I will say I believe everyone up here is absolutely committed to ensuring a safe community, and we're going to do that. And with that in mind, I know he asked for a consensus for us to gather or whatever information or whatever needs to be done to ensure that we have things in place for that. If you could state your request again for consensus, then we'll call for that consensus.
Well, actually, the consensus was on the previous discussion about the.
No, that's what I was talking about. The previous discussion that you had was talking about earlier, before we got into some other matters.
Okay.
You asked for a
Right.
consensus.
Yeah, the consensus in directing the city attorney to come back with possible code language
Correct.
regarding gun shops and use by right.
Yes, sir. That's
To return in front of council.
Yes, that would be something. 'Cause
Right, right.
I
If
think
that-
that needs to be addressed publicly.
yes, sir. And so I just need a show of hands. If we could show of hands, who is in support of that information? I'm certainly in support of bringing back the information because, as I said, safety is the number one priority of all of us up here and all of our citizens. Safety is priority one, and we need to understand all of the angles of safety so that we can make the best informed decision for our citizens.
Well, Mr. Mayor, you did raise the issue in regards to the 4.6 million. That discussion is coming back to council at the next meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I believe, because I believe the manager has indicated she is going to be meeting with the superintendent, and certainly the liaisons can attend that meeting. However, we will expect a report back and a follow-up with our next meeting. Councilman Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is to the interim city manager. Is there any update on the FUSIS system? Is it still on schedule for implementation in February?
If I could please have Chief Jenkins please give a brief update.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council.
Evening, Chief.
So, Councilman Moody, to answer your question, the fuses, a lot of the bugs and networking issues that we've had that were associated with city IT, working with the fuses engineers, have been worked out. We are moving towards the training phase, so we're looking at hopefully having all of that stuff implemented and up and running by middle part of February. Pending no additional issues, fuses will be up and running by before latest part will be beginning of March. So we're not anticipating any issues. We've been in constant contact with them with trying to move this forward.
Great. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. And one other thing I want to mention, as I had mentioned in the earlier work session, this is good news. And so the Hampton Roads Realtors Association contacted me last week to inform me that Portsmouth, Virginia was selected by the Realtors Association, Realtors.com, as the best city in the nation for first-time home buyers. So I think we should all celebrate something positive about the city of Portsmouth being named the best city in America for first-time home buyers. And the reason why that's great is because when they looked at the top 10 cities, they looked at the cities that have strong job markets, short commute times, plenty of places to eat and drink, a younger population, affordability, and more homes to choose from. So I just wanted to share that bit of good news to the citizens of Portsmouth. Thank you. We have a report on pending items. Madam Manager, do you have any pending items?
No, sir, I don't.
Thank you, ma'am. We have now moved to the agenda item of non-agenda speakers, item 23-38. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the speaker statement?
Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the City Council as a body rather than any particular member of City Council, staff, or the audience, and should be limited to matters that only the Portsmouth City Council can influence. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And our first speaker this evening is Ms. Janie Culpepper. Ms. Culpepper, ma'am, if you would come forward, state your name and address, you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor. My name is Janie Culpepper.
Can you speak into the mic, Janie?
Yes, I apologize. Once again, good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor and council members. My name is Janie Culpepper.
Good evening,
I live at 3900 Scott Street in wonderful Portsmouth, Virginia. And I'm here tonight not to fuss about anything in particular, but I'd like to talk a little bit about our crowning jewel of this city, which is City Park. This is 93 acres of unbelievable, wonderful activity area. It has been here as long as I can possibly remember. I've gone there as a child. My children have gone there. I don't have any grandchildren, but I have some great nephews that I'm taking over there and use it regularly as a dog walking area. The pictures that have been passed out to you, I wanted to show the first picture. That right there is a picture taken from the road as you ride through there and you look at the railing that's in front of the water. And it's a great concern to me because if you only ride and look from a vehicle towards this water, you do not and cannot see the problems that exist in this railing. There are some very dangerous situations here. There are railings that are completely gone. There's footings that are gone. These areas, also there are boards that are loose and flip and flop back and forth in the wind. And these areas are prone to accidents. You have children running and playing. You have people walking on the boardwalk itself, which can easily trip and fall in there, which could result not only in serious injury, but also in serious financial problems and a lawsuit for the city of Portsmouth, Virginia, which we don't need. I know that a number of our council members, Vice Mayor, and Mr. Moody were very involved in getting our wonderful fishing pier at City Park. And we just have so many things that other cities don't have. And like I say, this is our crowning jewel. And I had heard the information about Portsmouth being the #1 destination. And this helps towards that. It's a wonderful place. It's a wonderful thing for not only the people who live here, but people who visit here. And I think council should be extremely proud of what they have done with this acreage through the years and continue to do. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Our next speaker is Miss Veronica Dance. Miss Dance. Veronica Dance. Our next speaker is Mr. Sergio Neal. Mr. Neal, sir, if you would come forward and state your name and address, you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. My name is Sergio Neal. I live at 1420 Elm Avenue here in this great city of Portsmouth. First of all, I want to say welcome to council, Mr. Tillage, Mr. Hugel. Thank you all for your service, for what you are bringing to the table. I'm glad we have Mr. Tillage, especially because he comes from our school board, which it needs great partners here on our city council. We need people that understand that funding education at minimum requests is not always the answer. Case in point, the request from school board for the $4.6 million for school safety. Let me be an advocate for that. If you know what it costs to bury a child or a family member, whatever the case might be, doing anything to protect their lives would be of the utmost importance. I think our school system should not have to ask for that $4.6 million, and it'd be a whole bunch of discussion, extra unnecessary discussion. And to Ms. Terry's point, I do think we need to discuss other funding avenues, because there are ways to do things without having, done one way. You can, skin a cat in more ways than one, as they say. But it shouldn't become a political thing or anything like that. Worried about what Newport News did or did not do. We don't have time for that right now. We need to worry about what Portsmouth is going to do to protect their children. I get it. Trust me, I get it. Furthermore, the incident that happened on that school bus, that was from Manor High School. The high school student with the knife, let's be real. I think sometimes what happens is that, we get so caught up in a moment that we need to realize that at the end of the day, we have as much as Portsmouth is progressing, we have a casino that just opened. We are still stuck in some ways of playing politics with stuff that we should not be playing politics with. School safety is one of those things we don't have time to be playing politics with. Recreation, again, is one of those things we don't have time to be playing politics with. People in Douglas Park, they know of JFK. That's what JFK is. I used to volunteer with Portsmouth Parks and Rec for a long time before I started working. So I know that's where JFK actually is in Douglas Park. So we want to make sure that was clear as well. Sometimes, people get confused when you're trying to give out landmarks. That's where that place is. But anyway, we need to make sure that we are doing what we should be doing by our citizens, by everybody that lives and works here, that plays here. Shout out to Portsmouth for doing what they do with Restaurant Week. I love to eat, so got to check out some good places. Everybody know I love Roger Brown's. That's my ride or die. Public House, Old Town Public House, all up and down High Street. Anybody got a restaurant, I'm coming to see you. Probably one day this week, if not, probably in the next few weeks. But shout out to Portsmouth for doing what they do with Restaurant Week. I'm quite sure all of those restaurant owners, that being near and dear to my heart as well. If it wasn't for restaurants, I would not be where I am right now as far as being an experienced manager. So shout out to keep doing that. I wish Portsmouth would do more for Restaurant Week, put it out more, make sure that people are aware of places that go. And, for those restaurants that did not put out a menu, just say, hey, you know what, we have these people that put out a restaurant menu, but if you choose not to go there, there are many other places to go, to eat here. That's one thing that is true, Mr. Mayor, about what the Real Estate Association said. We do have a lot of places to eat. I know my bank account reflects that. Last but not least, I'm going to say this, and I don't want nobody to feel the type of way. I live right down the street from that gun shop that just opened. Mr. Mayor knows, especially my family member that was in my house, they got hit by a gunshot last year on May the 28th. And we live right down the street from that place. let me just be clear, it's not the guns in that building that gonna make or break me, my family, the kids that live around us. It's the stupid people that try to do stupid things and may try to break in that building. They're gonna be the ones I'm upset with. So you can best believe that because I know that's down the street from me, my eyes gonna be on it like white on rice, and better not nobody try it, because it's too many kids. Not only the kids in my house, my neighbors' kids, the people that have kids in that block. Period. We are not gonna stand for the foolishness no more. It's on Elm Avenue. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker, Ms. Cheryl Bryant. Ms. Bryant, ma'am, come forward, state your name and address. You will have 5 minutes.
How you guys doing? Can you hear me?
Good, ma'am.
Well, I have a couple of questions. I know that you guys are aware of the C code 22-831, and I'm just trying to figure out what's the status of it. I'm asking whoever wants to answer the question.
Madam City Attorney, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I can tell you that a number of council members have reached out to our office regarding your request, and we are looking into it to facilitate some sort of resolution. So the issue is being taken seriously. I know that you had spoken directly with a number of council members and members on the 6th floor regarding that, and that information is being shared amongst us. And so we will continue to work towards getting to some sort of resolution.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. And I do want to say this. I'm a firm believer about not knowing where you're going until you know where you've been. And I don't know if, people forget, haven't experienced it, but it's hard out here in life. And, the gun violence is ridiculous. Violence, period, is ridiculous, whether it's coming from the gangs of the street or the gang of law enforcement, because they're the biggest gang to me. That's my opinion. But it's not the gun. It's the people that holds the guns. And I really think that, you guys should put more focus on mental health. It's a lot of people that struggles with that. It's people that haven't had issues a day in their life and a situation come about and they snap. You can take away the guns. We're going to take away the knives too. I mean, if somebody wanting to get you, they can get you. Whether they got a gun or not. A gun is just a quicker way to doing it. But I really believe and feel that you guys really need to get involved. They need to form organizations with people that suffer with some type of mental illness. Or they might not, just depression or whatever, period. As far as the schools, the first thing, I think it should be a dress code through Portsmouth. That'll stop a lot of bullying, And then if everybody has the same thing on and the school is giving the uniforms, they can't put but so much in their pockets to hold anything. I mean, I have some suggestions, and I can email them to you. I mean, I don't mind, because I want what's best for people. I want people to understand and to know that they're not by themselves. Everybody wants to be a part of something, negative or positive. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody deserves the respect to be acknowledged. So I just, pretty much hope that y'all can get this together. I don't mind working with the city. I have a lot of ideas that will enlighten a lot of situations that's going on around here. Something needs to be done about this. And I'm really considering, coming on the other side because it needs to get done. I don't have step. These are my parents. They are still with me. So my roots run very deep, my morals and standards. So maybe I see y'all on the flip side next year, 2024, when I might run for city council. Make some moves.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Cedric Cradle. If you would come forward, sir, and state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor. Cedric Cradle, 725 Bow Street, residence that I also own. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager, Police Chief, and the citizens. First off, Unseen Tears is a not-for-profit group set up as a support for families who have lost loved ones due to gun violence. We provide community support for families. It is a point of outreach where families get help pushing through the legal process that so often fails them in their pursuit of justice for their loved ones. Also, we provide group counseling every Wednesday of each month. That being said, I went to court recently on 2 homicide cases. I was told by the Commonwealth Attorney's representative that Cedric Cradle does his organization a disservice because of his past. Well, I'm here to speak on that. I'm here to tell the Commonwealth Attorney.
Sir,
I'm here to tell the citizens, the city.
Mr. Cradle, sir.
Delete that.
Sir.
Delete that. I delete that.
We can wait. Let me finish my thought. Hold on, sir. We can
you
only
stop the time?
No, we can only affect things as a council that we can affect.
Yeah, but
so you have to.
I got to put the names in there. You guys included. I'm gonna keep your name in there.
But just make sure that you keep it about something that we can influence.
I'm going to put the whole council's name in it, man. Can I just finish? Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
But we took about 10 seconds from it, so.
Sir, I usually give you time to make up.
You're right about that. But again, the Commonwealth Attorney, the city, the council, and the representative. Unseen Tears is providing a real service to families, unlike the Victim Witness Program in the city of Portsmouth under the current Commonwealth Attorney. Nor is the Homicide Victims Program, which is fully funded with a certified counselor under the Commonwealth Attorney. But you have to be a certain kind of victim to receive services. That should be a problem with the current situation that's going on in Portsmouth. But again, our city is becoming the norm for violence, for homicides. 5 already this year. That means we're on pace to have 60. I attribute this to the release of homicide defendants in all process of homicide cases under the current Commonwealth Attorney, Stephanie Morales. I've never seen the Commonwealth Attorney stand with the police chiefs in the past 2 years I've been coming down here to show a commitment to crime or a commitment to service along with the mayor or any other city official as a show that unity like they did on the Missy Elliott celebration. But again, my past can't change, but my future can. But if Portsmouth is going to go forward, maybe we might want to entertain the fact that we might need a new Commonwealth Attorney. And this is not personal. This has got nothing to do with personal. This got to do with over 100 names, victims who can't speak, and the families who can't get the justice that they truly deserve. Now, again, this is not black and white, as they would say, because it had nothing to do with black and white. It has something to do with humanity. And because of my ability to try to do right in this point in time, whether the council or city attorney wants to try to block my name as a bad seed, but I know I'm doing a service to the cities. And if you don't believe that, all you got to do is come to our meetings that we'll be celebrating our anniversary year of Unseen Tears, to our group meetings. You'll see the number of family members who are suffering right now still because they haven't had justice for their family members. They haven't been reached out with this homicide victim group that they're saying that's a part of the city. So when the people come to our city, they look up stuff like this and they call. And when we act like that's a service that we're rendering, and then they find out that's not what we're rendering. I'm gonna leave you with this. I had a young lady call me yesterday or 2 days ago who watched the news, who lost her son to gun violence in another city. And she said, is there some way that I can come to Portsmouth and be a part of what those families are going through, because I have no one to talk to, because I never thought it was a group out there that reached out to the families. And I told her, we're here for everybody. Portsmouth is here for everybody. Just like that casino is here for everybody. We can change this thing around, but we got to come up with real solutions. We got to stop playing with this thing. Or again, I told y'all last year, if we don't get in front of this, the 5 deaths that we just had, they're going to multiply it by 10. I greatly appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Kamari Caraway. Please bring the mic down to your speaking level, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Kamari Caraway. I am here as an Unseen Tears member for the victims of gun violence. Please keep the families in your prayer. Omar Booker, Robert Laxton, Nicholas Suggs, Richard Tucker, Timothy Shine, Brian Williams, Marquell, Chris Watson, Kerry Thomas, Williams, Selfridge, Carlston Baines, Matonio Bunch, Chris Richardson, Andrea Hall, Kiera, Victor Green, David Branch, Lawrence Coffer, Crystal Jacobs, Derek Parker, Demetrius White, Booby Statston, Mylan Everett, Andra Betha, Kareem Barche, Rodney Anderson, Gary Fields, J. Mott Mitchell. These are some of the victims of gun violence. Thank you, Unseen Tears.
Thank you, Kamari. Our next speaker is Angela Britt. Angela Britt.
Heavenly Father, we give you the praise and honor. We just ask you to give us an ear to hear and an eye to see and remove the veil. Thank you in Jesus' name. My name is Angela Britt. I reside in the city of Chesapeake. Mayor, I just would like to know, does the city of Portsmouth have a crime prevention reduction plan for the city of Portsmouth?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Are we talking about the Portsmouth Police Department crime prevention reduction program?
We can certainly talk about the specifics of our plan after the meeting is over, ma'am.
Sure. Gun violence pandemic. That's what we're facing right now. Gun violence pandemic. This is not being addressed by the Commonwealth Attorney's Office and staff Stephanie Morales.
Ma'am, I will have to tell you, I asked the previous speaker, you have to speak on things that we can affect as a council. Issues that you have with someone outside of this council are not to be brought forward to us. Now, this is a warning. If you continue to go down that line of speaking, I'm going to have to ask you to have a seat,
Yes, sir.
okay?
Well, I might just close my notebook and just tell you what's really on my heart.
Well, tell us what's on your heart.
This is my grandson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ashanti Britt, who was violently murdered this year. It's only been about 3 months, maybe 4. And I stand here today because a lot of these murders are not being prosecuted. Some of them is getting bail bonds. I have a problem with that because the families, the mothers and the families are really suffering in words to justice. This is a gun violent pandemic for the city of Portsmouth. Nobody's addressing a lot of these murders. I understand the police department do have a program, and other nonprofit organizations here in the city of Portsmouth are doing things. But the bottom line is, we are really not addressing the problem, which is the gun violence. This is a pandemic. I feel as though the FBI and everybody else need to be called to this city because there's no control. It's like nobody want to really talk about that. We're giving out turkeys, we're giving out book bags, we got a casino going on, but we are not dealing with the real issue, which is a gun violent pandemic. This is an emergency. As Cedric mentioned earlier, 5 people already have died this year. And I'm quite sure more will in the latter part of the year. It's a sad situation that we can't come together and address the real issue. When are we going to address? What are we going to do? What are the real solutions for this problem? Everybody's talking around it, but nobody's addressing it. You know, meetings here, meeting there, everybody have a plan or action, but where's the action? My grandson died this year, and so did quite a few other grandsons, daughters, sons. So the problem's not being addressed. And I don't understand why we keep talking. What is this talk is about? We already know what the problem is and where it lies. Yes, a new gun shop just opened up in Portsmouth. Okay, the problem ain't the guns, it's the people who hold the guns. And let's talk about the illegal guns, because you know they're not going to buying guns from the gun shop. So let's talk about how these guns is coming into the hands of these criminals. That's the problem. Let's talk about it. Let's get real. I mean, all this talk and no action is just a waste of time. And it's very frustrating and upsetting that somebody else's child is going to die, if not tonight, then tomorrow. I feel as though the city council is not addressing this problem. You know, the police got a great thing going with the website and the form and talk to the chief and all this stuff, but the kids are still dying. So what are the councils going to do? What is the city council going to do? What are we as parents, those parents that are sitting home watching me right now? You need to come out here and fight for justice for your children, for those ones that lost their kids through gun violence. Unseen Tier organization does represent the families. We do the best we can. We try to comfort and counsel, but we need more help. We reaching out to the public. The public, everybody's saying, you know, what they want to do, but this is a time for action. It's sad. It's sad. I lost my grandson, but I'm going to fight to the end till we get justice. Thank you, Mayor. Have a good night.
Thank you, ma'am. And we are sorry for your loss. Vice Mayor Lucas Burke, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Britt, I just want to address your concern because I had a conversation with the President pro tempore of the Virginia Senate, who happens to be my mother, Senator Lucas, and in one of their committees there in the Virginia General Assembly this week, and they sat there in a committee, and she got to a point where she was about in tears because she said that this gun violence is a pandemic, just like you said, and she was in tears. She said that it's happening in our communities, but it's happening at an alarming rate where it's black on black crime.
Yes.
And it is, nobody's saying anything because we're doing it to ourselves. And I think if it was reversed and we had, you know, more other races, being eliminated every day, that it would be something more done with it. But at the General Assembly, at the state level, that's where all of the federal state legislation occurs. I mean, right now, at our level, some of the things that you heard our city attorney say that we can't make any federal changes with gun laws or whatever, but we are relying on our state legislation to put things in place to help guide us. We're a Dillon Rules state, where our council kind of follows some of the rules of state legislation. They're putting some funding in place to try to address some of these things, some of the ghost guns that are on the street, some of the murders that happen. We need a true funding for a victim witness program that will allow some of these people to be able to be displaced. The Commonwealth Attorney's Office don't have that funding, but that's not anything that we could do. So, I mean, just because I'm hearing some of these conversations on another level, I just want to give you, some peace of mind that it's not just being omitted by this council. There are actually, some higher up legislation things and funding that have to happen before we can just come in and make a rule and start making changes with things. So we sympathize with you, we empathize with you, but trust and believe that, we're not giving up until we get some solutions as well.
So the killings continue. That's what it looked like. It's looked like, we're waiting, we're trying to get out here, represent, fight, understand what you're saying in reference to legislation, but the killing is still continuing. People's children are dying every day. So how many deaths do we have to actually come across to actually call this a gun violent pandemic? I don't know, but it's sad. Yes, it is black on black crime. What difference does that make? Someone's life is taken. And I thank your mom for that, but we still need to act now. I mean, how many meetings there are going to be before some real solutions come to the table? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker, Mr. Mark Godaldig-Yatrovsky. Mr. Yatrovsky, sir, if you would come forward, you will have 5 minutes, and if you would state your name and address, sir.
Mayor, council, and other neighbors. So the casino opened yesterday, I read in the paper. And a lot of people are seeing Christmas return with visions of millions dancing in their sweet little heads. But I'm here to serve as the Grinch for second Christmas, because something that has not been talked about, but I think is operative in this environment. So the 12 to 16 million projection may not actually result in 12 to 16 million more in revenue for the city net. The reason being that in Virginia we have something called the composite index. The composite index is a measurement of a locality's ability to raise revenue. Portsmouth has benefited from, it's a dubious benefit, but Portsmouth has been the recipient of additional aid from the Commonwealth for its schools because we have a distressed tax base. 50% of our land is beyond the reach of the tax collector. And so each year the Commonwealth gives us a little more than Virginia Beach or Chesapeake, which are not similarly distressed. If the casino's revenue projections, tax revenue projections, match what we've heard thus far, that revenue infusion into our coffers will raise our index, meaning that the Commonwealth will not need to put as much money into our schools as before, and we will be picking up that tab. You know, self-sufficiency is a good thing, but we need to manage expectations about how much impact financially the casino is going to have here in light of things like the composite index. So when council members talk about providing a $1,400 stipend or subsidy to Portsmouth retirees, as we had in the past, I cringe. Because to begin with, that incentive was supposed to be transitional, to help the employees adjust to the idea of not being on the city's health insurance and to get them into the swim of Medicare. Now, as somebody who has received Medicare benefits for the last 7 years, I've found that it was really good health insurance. And I scratch my head over why we would need to provide such a subsidy to people in our in-house retirement programs to offset being on Medicare rather than in the city's health plan. So I don't want to see us get rapture of the deep, what with the projections for revenue increases here, and start finding ways to give away money that we really don't have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker, Mr. Clyde Toller. Mr. Toller, sir, if you would come forward, state your name and address. Sir, you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening
Good evening, sir.
to each and every one, and to the great citizen who turned out tonight here with us. I want to say it's nice seeing you all again. It's been a while. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Miss White, new city manager, Sainam, attorney, Miss White, and I go way back. Please fix that seat over there. It's like a rowboat. I was scared to move. But anyway, fix that seat. I don't want to fall out the floor because you said this old dude done come up in here and fell into place. But anyway, I am Portsmouth proud. As you know that. I live in Parkview, 1029 Blair Street. That's where I live at. And I'm Portsmouth proud. And I come here tonight because I have been in this city and I've been some of everything in this city. I came to this city in World War II at 19 years old after spending time in Germany in the Army. I came back here again in 1953 from Korea as a Marine and stayed here for 20 years. Played in the band up and down High Street. I know when half of you was born. You, Mr. Whitaker. I know a lot of you. You wasn't born. But anyway, we ain't gonna go there. But what I'm here for, I've seen everything in my neighborhood except a deer and a bear. I'm looking one morning to look out the window and see the bear. You know, like that commercial, the bear on the one at the lady? I'm looking to see that one morning. I have asked people, Miss Bernadette does a good job. Somewhere the paper trail is falling. I heard you say you're going to look at this. I want to see where your paper trail go. Because due to the fact that I think my inspector, he just disappeared. Cars sitting on the street, been out there ever since 1979 when I built my house and moved there. Some of them been there 10 and 15, 20 years. Grass grew up behind them, dirt behind them. Oh, come out there and see. I don't have to tell you that. I've been popular civic president and everything in this city. President of the NACP, vice president. Also the Elks. I got them out of trouble. When I stepped in and got out there, and they went on none. They had 17 cents when I took them over, but they left. They had money. It went down. But this city has been great. I don't knock anybody here because I don't run for council and anything. I like coming here beating you up. So if we can come in and beat you up, we'll do that. But look, I would like to see somebody take care of these coons, rabbits, fox, all running up and down the street, all in my yard. And the other day, 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure to see a big vulture laying right in my driveway, walk across the street, pick up part of a dead cat. He had dinner. Little dog ran out of the house. Said, lady, you better get that little Fido, because that buzzer to mess him up. But anyway, he flew away. And if you say you don't believe it, Ms. White will tell you, I was a photographer for this city council for about, a long time. When you didn't have that little camera up there, they did it all by shorthand. I took all the pictures. I was reporter for 2 newspapers here in Portsmouth after I retired. But I tell you, you're doing a good job. Stick together and work with one another. I know we got a bad name, some have it, but everybody have problems. But I want to see the house, Miss Bernadette, close to me, I want to see that house painted. They painted halfway, never painted in 20 years up top. It's just halfway painted. And the guy keep telling me what he gonna do, but nothing in there. But the first thing for the chief, is he still here, I want you to get up to those people that's riding around in this automobile with 2 in the back, 2 in the front, and they throwing out all these little old newspaper in the street. If you go over by Gardner and South Street, there's a place over there, grass is 5 feet, I'm 5'11", it's 5 feet high, and it runs all the way to the corner, and I almost hit a guy because he was dressed in black, and I didn't see him. You got to walk out in the street and go from here far to that door, and that's ridiculous for this city. And do something about that old big water tower. Ugly. I told the man, he said, how can I get to the casino? I said, keep going down the street, look at that water tower, and when you see that big ugly thing, just make a right. City manager, I want to see you do something with that water tower. Do something for the citizens, and let's get this city cleaned up. It's dirty. Go underneath to the underpass over there on the mall. The railing been down over there for 20 years. They still down. How come you ain't did nothing about it? Burn our house. I heard one of you talk about that old Goodman's place. If he can't fix it up, tear it down. You make everybody else tear down everything. So let's get together and let's keep up the good work. And we're not the only people in trouble. And let's respect one another. Gentlemen, when you come before the council, pull your hat off when you come in here. Have some respect for this chair. And have some respect for yourself. I was taught to have respect. And as you know, I'm still kicking. I'm still above ground. Every day above ground is a good day, but I'm still above ground. And I'm going to come here more often because if you don't get these things done and come by and get these cars off the street and stop flying through with the policemen that we do have, slow down and look around before you fly down the street. You're missing cars and things. Is parking on the left hand of the street, wrong side, is that illegal in Portsmouth? Can the chief tell me that, yes or no? Well then, get your meter maids back. They don't have to be policemen, let them write tickets. Get your meter maids back. Put them out there. Let's take care of this. You can do it. Let's stop doing a lot of lip service and let's do something that's worthwhile, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Fix that chair, Miss White.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Toller. Our next speaker, Hunter Morris.
Honorable Mayor, City citizens of Portsmouth. My name is Hunter Morris. I live in Suffolk. I graduated from Woodrow Wilson High School. I want to say thank you this opportunity. I am here to give a simple speech about how much violence there is and the kids with guns. Can't there be a program to help teach parents what to look for so they can make sure that their kids won't have guns? We should teach everyone to forgive and love each other. The Bible says to love your neighbors. If there are programs to help, please.
Into the microphone.
Oh,
yes.
I'm sorry about that.
No, that's okay. You're doing a great job.
You want me to start all over again?
No, just keep going where you're from,
Okay.
please.
To give them more money to help them work. Also, please do whatever it takes to get more police. And the last thing is, I am praying for unity for all the leaders to work together and to make Portsmouth safe. Thank you for listening. I am also praying for all of us to come together, and we should make Portsmouth safe. And for the kids that go to school, we should also take more security measure. And God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Councilman Moody, sir, you have the floor. Sir, could you come back forward, please? The councilman is going to make a statement, so just stand there at the podium.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Morris, and Mayor, in the light of transparency, Mr. Morris is my younger brother's grandson.
Oh.
And this is the first time he's addressed any public body. Want to thank him for that. Also want to thank you for ending the night on the solution to all of our ills, and that's we need to love one another.
Amen.
You struck the right chord, Hunter. I'll call him Hunter.
Thank you, Uncle Billy.
And appreciate you coming here tonight. You did a great job.
Thank you so much. And thank you for you all.
If there are no additional items to discuss, this meeting is adjourned. Stay safe and healthy.